Okay, so welcome back to part 2, and what we started to do were make little envelopes and little pockets. So this is day 2, but this is going to be a little part 1 of ephemera, so we might do ephemera for a few days. So the general meaning of ephemera is fleeting, short-lived. So ephemera art in the art world is when it's a work of art made out of leaves, twigs, anything that can disintegrate, blow away. A sand painting by monks would be ephemera, and they just brush it away when they've finished. So in junk journaling, ephemera is really the little bits and pieces we add. So yesterday the activity was to make a couple of these, as many as you wanted, really, out of the pages. And what else we should do, or can do, is get some of the pages and cut them like this. This is another way to create pockets when they're stuck down to the page. So we can have all different sorts of sizes. This sort of a size, half up the page, little corners. One of the things that often people use in junk journals is a method of helping the paper look even more distressed. So if you've got any sort of ink pad, now this is a particular type of thing where you can attach this sponge to use to go around the edges to just shade it off. Now you can use, I have seen people use anything. I've seen people use black, brown, vintage colours. I too have used a pink or a blue, and so lots of people have used all different types of ways of putting a little bit of extra colour onto the edge. So mainly if you're using the browns, and they'll really antique a piece as if it's a lot, see they fold, a lot older. You can do things like this. Bring out the creases. That's one way, a couple of ways of getting them antique-y. So that's one thing we can do. You can even get a little bit of a roughing up on the edge there. I particularly like this colour on really old paper. It's Distress Ink by Ranger, and it's Tea Stain it's called. You can get these little ones, they're cheaper. You can also get bigger ones. If you go around that little notch there, that'll help that stand out a little bit better too. Okay, so far we've got a pocket, we've got an envelope. Now if you can imagine, let's use the book as an example. One of these, if they're stuck down, you can tuck a little writing card in there. Okay, so with these, another thing you can do with them, you could use them, you could just distress the edges and use them as they are on the page. Depends what's on your background, of course. So if you're going to stick it onto a normal page of type, it might not stand out very well. This will help it to stand out a little bit. But another way because you know, if you are going to be making, well, when we get to it, we're not at it yet, but we're going to get there, as the pages of the book, we could be using just clear paper, you know, just it could be just a bit of white paper like that, and so it will stand out. One of the things you can use are bits of scrap paper. So this is going to depend on entirely on how you want your book to look at the end. So you might want to have a little bit of think about that for now. I'm going to use this, and I'm going to stick some of these down, and that will give me a particular look to these little edges and pages. Something you can do to help with less cutting if you want is just try and match up all your edges. There we go. So this just has the effect of making it that bit thicker, so it's got a bit more solidity to it. So as you can see, if this was a page in a book and you stuck that down there, you could tuck some things into here. Another thing you can do with these particular ones is use a darker ink. I'm going to go through this. I've stuck a bit of this foam stuff on the end of an old glue stick that's run out. So there are always ways. Someone was using a little bit of felt to get the effect. There's always a way to craft, whether you have a big budget or a little budget. Okay, so now we have a couple of varieties of ways we can make a little corner pocket. And we have envelopes and pockets. Now with an envelope, just get the one I've distressed, so it's like this. This can be also tucked in here, so you can pull it out and open it, find out whatever's inside. This could be glued down to your page. Find out what's inside, close the lid. Same with these. They can be tucked into things, or they can be glued down and act as a pocket. So we could cut two of these. We can glue them together. That just makes it thicker. You can do a single one if you like, but two together just gives it a little bit more strength. There we go. Now this can act as a little button. So if we just glue down half, you might want to pick which side you like. Just put a bit of glue on half of it. Try and find the middle. The glue at the bottom half. There. So once it's dry, just stick it down a bit better. Once it's solid and dried, you'll be able to tuck this in there. Yeah, there, and it will hold it down. Alright, so that's one thing. So if you've already made a few of these, your task today is to distress them around the edges, to cut some little triangles, half pages, and cover them if you like. You can decide if you want to leave them, or find a bit of paper that you really love, a bit of thicker, not just thin paper, but cardstock, or you know, halfway between copy paper and cardstock, maybe 125 GSM possibly, and cover those. That way we're going to have enough of these to put into our book. Another thing for today that will be fun is if you pull out a couple of pages. This is what I like doing, but it may not be what other people like doing. I collect a bit of the different bits of type, and I find that I find it amusing. I said it in the last one. So I kind of liked this one, Goldfish in Trouble. That made me laugh. As I went through, there was a story, and I really loved it. In this particular book, there was a story about Nan going and making a plaited rug, and I thought, well, a junk journal's very, it is pretty close to all the crafting, so I got the little stories out of those. That's separate, that's not even going to have anything to do with it, but I got the little stories out, and I've just collected them. And what I think they'll become is different little cards. So they'll be part of, if you haven't seen it before, there'll be either tags or on journaling cards that are tucked into those little things through the book. I know I'm aware that I'm making this very, very simple, and apologise for people who are much more experienced, but if you haven't done this before, I hope that there's a lot of information. So I've pulled out lots of little bits of words and things that make sense to me. Now what I'm going to do with these, you don't need a real lot because you could end up with way more than you need. I'll be distressing mine. There. And what I'm going to do with mine, I don't think that I'll be gathering too many more from the book, but what I mean is you could see something that you really like, and you can just do this basically to cut them out. You can tear them to get a nice rough edge, or you can see a line you really like. You can cut them. I really like that. box of oysters in the pantry, it says. So I love that box of oysters. That's exactly what I'd like to have right now. Well, the box of oysters in the pantry. There you go. So that's one little bit of funny type that can be used. So what I'm going to do with all of these now is put them aside for a bit later when we're doing that particular day. So we're kind of at the moment gathering at this early stage. We've cut the, you know, we've got it started because we've got the book cut out and we've got these bits and pieces and gathering all different bits of ephemera ready to be going into the book when we're ready. Okay, so the pages are enough for you to go on with, and I'm tucking mine away into a little plastic bag, and that's enough for today, and we'll be back for day 3 and concentrate a bit more on ephemera, a few more ideas and things. So I'll see you tomorrow, and thanks for joining the 30 days. That's wonderful. Bye for now.